Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining into today's 2023 Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program and Connect and Protect New Grantee Orientation webinar. This is part 2 in the series, and it will be focused on an overview of the JMHCP and Connect and Protect budget, grants management, and performance measurement requirements. My name is Allison Upton. I'm a Deputy Program Director at the Council of State Governments Justice Center. I'm going to be moderating our webinar today, which is hosted by the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance. Next slide. Okay. To give you an overview of our agenda today, first we'll do some introductions of our panelists and provide a brief overview of the JMHCP and Connect and Protect goals. And then I will turn it over to the BJA Programs Office, who will discuss budget and grants management in detail, followed by an overview of the performance measurement tool and processes. And at the end of the webinar, we'll have a time for questions and answers. And just a couple of housekeeping notes. Welcome, everyone. And just a reminder that anytime during this webinar, you can ask a question by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and entering your question. This includes both technical and content-related questions. We'll try to reply to technical questions as soon as possible in the chat window as we go. For the content-related questions, please enter those as well, and we might answer some as we go during the webinar, but we'll also keep a list and address as many as we can at the end of the webinar during the Q&A time. And if you encounter any technical or audio problems during this webinar, please click on the links that are dropped into the chat box. Please understand there are some technical issues that we may not be able to resolve, but we're going to do our best. And as a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we will post the recording along with the slide deck onto our website, most likely by the end of next week. Next slide. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our panelists. First, we have Tammy Lovell, who's a state policy advisor working on the JMHCP team at the Bureau of Justice Assistance, Office of Justice Programs at the U.S. Department of Justice. So Ms. Lovell has been with the Department of Justice, OJP, Office of Justice Programs, since 2020. She's a grants management specialist. And in this role, she manages and provides guidance in the administration of the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program grant funding, Collaborative Crisis Response and Intervention grant funding, Justice Assistance Grant, or JAG grant funding, Justice for All, Effective Administration of Criminal Justice Training and Technical Assistance grant funding, and Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental funding. Ms. Lovell has been managing formula and discretionary grant programs for over 16 years. She first started administering grants for Maryland's state administrative agency with the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services as a grant specialist, where she managed over 150 grants for the state of Maryland and served as the senior law enforcement program manager. Our next presenter is Asia Pappas, who is a division chief at BJA. Ms. Pappas is a veteran of the U.S. Army, and she received her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Master of Science in Criminal Justice Administration degrees from Chaminade University in Honolulu. Asia has a diverse work history, including serving as a Virginia magistrate, a criminal justice trainer, and a mental health and substance use provider. She is a licensed Virginia qualified mental health provider, a certified crisis intervention team instructor, and also a SAMHSA trauma-informed responses trainer. And last but not least, I want to introduce Sam Wilcox, who is a senior research associate at Carnival Associates LLC, which is a contractor for the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And Ms. Wilcox brings over 7 years of experience in the criminal justice field, conducting research and data collection, specializing in performance measurement and management, program evaluation, and data analysis. Sam has been a member of the Planning, Performance, and Impact team for the Office of Justice Programs Performance Measurement Project contract for 4 years now. She currently supports multiple programs across the substance use and prosecution and public defense portfolios. So I want to say welcome to all of our panelists, and thank you so much for joining into the webinar. Okay, so next we would love to hear from all of you, the fiscal year 23 JMHCP and Connect and Protect grantee team members that are here today. Welcome to all of you. Can you please just take a minute to introduce yourself in the chat? We'd love to see your name, title, organization, your jurisdiction, your role on the grant project, and anything else you'd like to share to introduce. It's really great to see who is in the training today, and it's just great to see new team members from around the country. Thank you again to everyone who's attending for joining into the second part of the orientation webinar. We know you're busy and we appreciate your participation. Again, congratulations from all of us on your awards, and we're really looking forward to working with you. Okay, great to see everyone's we're seeing so many people from around the country. It's great to see all the different team members, and I'll just move forward, and please feel free to keep introducing yourself. Here on this slide, just as a reminder, we wanted to share some of the main goals of the JMHCP and Connect and Protect programs. So a main goal, of course, I think you all are aware of this from the information in part 1, but as a refresher, one of the main goals of JMHCP is to develop collaboration across the criminal justice and behavioral health systems at various intercept points, right? From law enforcement, pretrial, courts, jails, and reentry and into the community with community supervision. Another key goal is to really learn how to establish and maintain successful partnerships that increase efficiencies and improve public safety and all sorts of outcomes with people with mental health disorders or co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders who come into contact with the justice system. And the Connect and Protect program in particular really focuses in on supporting law enforcement and behavioral health cross-system collaboration partners to design and implement best practice programs in crisis response to assist law enforcement during their encounters with people who have mental health disorders or co-occurring disorders in the justice system. Next slide. So as the training and technical assistance provider, or TA provider for short, for JMHCP and Connect and Protect, the agency that I work for, the CSG, the Council of State Governments Justice Center, is here to help your grant be a success. You will be connected very soon to an individual TA, technical assistance coach, who will help support you in reaching your grant goals. If there are changes in your grant programming, design, or budget issues, we will talk through it with you, discuss it with you on TA calls, and refer you to BJA as needed. We are here to help BJA with information on grantee progress and in their grant projects, to update BJA on the great work that's happening throughout the country. We hold monthly calls together with the BJA programs and policy offices to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of supporting you in your grant work. Your TA coach, your technical assistance coach, will be reaching out to you soon. In the meantime, if you have any questions before then, please feel free to contact me and I will do my best to answer your questions and help you. We will have our contact information at the end of the slides in this webinar today. So in part 1 of the orientation webinar series, which we held last week, we spoke in more detail about the technical assistance process that will be available to support JMHCP and Connect and Protect grantees. As a refresher, on this slide, we've listed some of the key strategies for getting the most out of the technical assistance process, or TA process for short. We expect that grant teams will engage actively and consistently in the TA process, which includes monthly TA calls throughout the life of your entire grant cycle. So all teams will work pretty intensively with their TA coach to complete the planning and implementation guide during the planning phase. And then grantees and TA coaches will continue to collaborate during your implementation phase of your grant project to work on ongoing goals and areas of focus. And through the TA process and this collaboration, you will work with your TA coach to develop a technical assistance plan, or TA plan for short. And just please know that your TA coach will always work to individualize the technical assistance process with you to make sure that we can best meet each of your team's needs and objectives. We also expect that grantees will reach out to their primary point of contact at BJA, which is your assigned state policy advisor, or SPA for short, when you have questions or experience challenges. They're here to support you and assist you. We particularly encourage you to seek guidance from your BJA SPA on the topics of budgeting, grant management, reporting, and other administrative and financial processes for your grant award. These are their areas of expertise, and you will hear much more on these topics during the webinar today. So next, we'd just like to ask you, engage you a little bit to respond to a couple of quick polling questions to learn a little bit more about the group that's here today. So Andrea has shared a poll with a couple of questions. We'll just give you a minute to respond. We'll take a look at at the answers. And I just can note that someone put in the chat, will the webinar recording be available? And yes, we will definitely we are recording this webinar, and we will be posting it on our website along with the slides. So you'll be able to have access to both probably by the end of next week. Andrea, do we have a tally, or do you need a little? Interesting. Okay, so we have, for the answer to question 1, 59% of the attendees today have previously received a BJA award. So that's interesting, and a good number of those earlier awards were also JMHCP or Connect and Protect, so about 31%. So interesting to see. We have a high number of repeat awardees. So congratulations. And also just want to note that whether you are a first-time awardee or you've received and worked on a BJA award previously, we are going to work with you to support you through the grant processes. Don't worry about that. we will be able to help you understand the processes if you are a first-time awardee. So again, congratulations to everyone. Very interesting. Okay. So next, I am going to pass it over to Asia Pappas to discuss an overview of the BJA Programs Office. Asia?
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Allison. Good afternoon. My name is Asia Pappas, and I'm a division chief with BJA. My team oversees a diverse portfolio of federal funding, supporting programs at the intersection of justice and mental health. Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program and the Connect and Protect program are two of the portfolios that my division oversees. As you can see here on the slide, we are Division 3. You have myself, you have Tammy Lovell, Nikisha Love, Renee Howell, and Winston Scarrett. Those 4 individuals are my grant management specialists, so that's who you will hear from during the life of your award. Next slide, please. The BJA Programs Office is responsible for providing timely and accurate grants administration information and assistance across, excuse me, I apologize, across the broad array of BJA grant programs. One of the things you can do to find out who your grant manager is go ahead and look in JustGrants. As this picture shows on the slide, your primary point of contact will be your BJA grant manager, and it will have their information right there in JustGrants. And the grant manager is there to provide assistance and to review and approve grant management actions, such as reports and award modifications, which Tammy will discuss in detail shortly. Your grant manager can also connect you to resources you may need to help in the management of your award, and they will help ensure your project is successful and compliant with all award conditions and administrative requirements throughout the funding period. They will also assist you with award acceptance, ASAP suspensions or holds as it relates to your award. And again, they're happy to help. So really, whenever you're in doubt, please reach out. And again, their information you can find right there in JustGrants. Next slide. Another office that you may hear from during the life of your award is the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, or OCFO. They will also provide assistance, and typically you will see that assistance around accounting, budget, financial, and grants management. They're going to contribute to your award in the following ways: customer service on financial matters, the clearance of your budget, any financial monitoring, site visits and compliance reviews, and any sort of financial management technical assistance you may need, and of course, your financial closeout. And their contact information you can find right there on the slide, which we will also make sure gets in the chat for you. Next slide. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Tammy Lovell, who will go ahead and go through the grant management overview process with you. Tammy?
Thank you, Asia. How's everybody doing? Hello and welcome. My name, as Asia said, is Tammy Lovell. I'm a state policy advisor here with BJA. And in this presentation, we're going to have an overview of the entire post-award grants management lifecycle, covering things from award acceptance to the conditions, to the budget and financial information, accessing your funds, reporting requirements, any kind of modifications, monitoring of the award, all the way through closeout. Next slide. I wanted to talk a little bit about the user roles. There are 4 primary user roles that are assigned in JustGrants, well, that you will assign: the entity administrator, the grant award administrator, the authorized representative, and the financial manager. I'm not going to read the entire slide, but as you can see, these roles have they play different important aspects for the award. The grant award administrator is responsible for all of the reporting and grant modifications, whereas the financial manager is responsible for completing and submitting the FFR. Next slide. So we're going to start off with the award acceptance. When your agency accepts the agreement, is entering into a legal binding contract with the federal government. Therefore, it's important that you read all of the terms and conditions thoroughly before accepting the award. As previously mentioned, the authorized representative on the previous slide is the person in the organization who will be taking care of the signing of the award and entering into the grant award agreement. The authorized representative accepts the award electronically in JustGrants, but before doing so, there must be some key role assignments that were made, which were on the previous slide. And you have 45 days to accept the award. However, this is really not a hard deadline. If you could just keep in contact with your SPA if you have run into any delays, or if you need more time to officially accept the award, that will be fine. Next slide. Continuing on with the award acceptance, we're going to go over each step. Step 1 of your award, you will have the status of pending award external assignee. This means that the entity administrator must confirm the authorized representative and then assign the grant award administrator and the financial manager to the award. If the authorized representative needs to be changed for who is listed in the application, the entity administrator can do so prior to the award being accepted. And we have links to detailed instructions on this slide. After the roles are officially made in JustGrants, the award agreement will be with the authorized representatives in their work list in JustGrants. And they will need to once again review each section, acknowledging having read the award conditions, and then officially accept the award. After the award is accepted, the status is going to change to pending active in if your agency is already registered in the payment system, which is the ASAP system. If they haven't registered, it will say pending ASAP notification. And we're going to discuss the ASAP system in the next few slides. Next slide. And now I want to cover the award conditions. In the award agreement is, once again, it's a contract and you're responsible for adhering to the award conditions. So it's very important that you thoroughly read and understand all of the applicable conditions. OJP applies 30 standard award conditions to all grant agreements. These cover various requirements, such as your agency's responsibility to adhere to the DOJ financial guide and the uniform requirements found in 2 CFR Part 200. And the link on this slide also has details on the legal requirements contained in the award conditions. The award conditions starting at number 31 and moving on are applied specifically for this program and conditions particular to your award. One or more of these award conditions may withhold funds. Your awards also have BJA specific award conditions, which begin at number 31, as I had just mentioned. And also there are 3 specific conditions just for Justice and Mental Health and Connect and Protect programs. So you want to pay special attention to those award conditions. Next slide. Some of the award conditions may withhold funds that would prevent obligation, expenditure, or drawdown of all or some of your award funds until certain actions are completed. For example, if OJP was unable to provide a final approval or clearance to the application and budget, therefore an award condition would be applied until OCFO approves or clears that budget. And I'll explain a little bit more of that in just a couple minutes. Other withholding conditions may have been applied due to a missing or insufficient information when you submitted your application. Given the award conditions, all of your grant funds, you will not have access, given these award conditions withhold all of your grant funds, you would not have access to up to $100,000 for the planning activities phase of the program, of the project. Justice and Mental Health has one of the award conditions. You have to complete a planning and implementation guide. Once your budget is cleared by OCFO, then you would have access up to the $100,000 specifically for the planning and the development of the P&I guide. Next slide. Justice and Mental Health has a match requirement as well as Connect and Protect. And this is part of the statute. It has an escalating match that is required. This is required non-federal match share that increases subsequent years. The match requirement for years 1 and 2 of the project is 20% of the total project cost. Note that that means that both years, so that the match for the individual years can differ as long as both of the match for year 1 and 2 is a total of 20%. The required match for year 3 is 40% of the total project cost for year 3. This means that the federal expenditures in year 1 and 2 cannot exceed 80% of the total project cost. And in year 3, they cannot exceed 60% of the total project cost. Total project cost is the federal and non-federal cost combined. You do not calculate match by applying non-federal match percentage to the federal amount. On the next slide, we're going to go into more detail, has more detail and step-by-step instructions on how to calculate the match for each year. Next slide. I'm not going to go over everything, but here you can see on this slide is a clear example of how you calculate the match for years 1 and 2 at a 20% match, and then year 3 at a 40% match. I also wanted to point out that match can either be cash or in-kind sources. Both of those are acceptable. When reviewing the budget, OCFO will check for the federal and non-federal totals to make sure that the match requirement is met. Next slide. Now we're going to talk a little bit about allowable costs. All costs must be allowable, reasonable, allocable, and necessary to the project per the DOJ financial guide and the uniform requirements under 2 CFR 200. Next slide. The grants financial management training is an award condition under this award, to where the assigned grant award administrator and financial manager must complete the training within 120 days of the award acceptance. This requirement applies to any individuals who take on these roles during the entire life of the grant. Some grants may have a withholding version of this award condition if the recipient has never had an OJP award before or was rated at a higher risk. There's a link to the online training on this slide. You'll need your UEI number and your award number to register for the training. Once you've completed it, you're going to send your certificate of completion to your BJA grant manager. Next slide. Accessing funds. This slide details steps that you would need to take in order to access award funds. First, the award must be accepted and resolve any kind of withholding conditions that may be outstanding, such as a conditional clearance for a budget approval. You must also be registered in the U.S. Treasury's ASAP payment system, which is the system in which you will make drawdown requests. Your ASAP account will be suspended if there are delinquent reports, so that it is also a condition for accessing funding. The standard rules for payments, as detailed in the DOJ Financial Guide, apply to your award. You are only allowed to draw down on a reimbursement basis. Any funds drawn down not spent within 10 days must be returned to OJP. There are no limitations on making reimbursement drawdowns, and you can process reimbursements on a frequency that works for your specific agency. Next slide. This slide includes more details on the ASAP payment system. If you're a current OJP grantee with an active ASAP registration, you don't need to take any action as that just carries over to the next award, unless users need to be added to your ASAP account to make drawdowns for this specific award. However, if you're a new OJP recipient, you'll need to first be registered in the ASAP system. After the authorized representative accepts the award, the entity administrator for your agency will receive 2 emails from ASAP with step-by-step instructions for registering. On this slide, we have a contact information for the OCFO customer service, who is the contact if you need to request that ASAP emails be resent, or if you need any assistance registering for ASAP. Next slide. And I wanted to go over the reporting for the performance reporting and the financial reporting requirements for this award. This slide kind of gives you an overview of the time frame and then when they are due, and then the role that is responsible for these reports in JustGrants. As you can see, the federal financial report, which is the SF-425, the financial manager is responsible for that, and that report is due on a quarterly basis. The progress reports or the performance reports are completed on a semi-annual basis, and the grant award administrator will find these reports and complete them via their work list. Please note that there's also an alternate grant award administrator assigned when the roles are assigned to the award. However, they cannot edit they can edit but not submit the performance report in JustGrants. Next slide. JMHCP and Connect and Protect grantees must submit performance measures directly in JustGrants by completing a question set with the semi-annual performance reports. Recipients are encouraged to attach any kind of supporting documentation to the report as well, especially for the financial report, which must have a narrative about the full accomplishments and the goals and objectives of the report. Excuse me, not the financial, the final performance report. Keep in mind that JustGrants will automatically suspend your ASAP account if a report is delinquent, and access to funds will be interrupted until the reporting is submitted. This goes for both FFR, which are financial reports, and performance reports. And also note that a pattern of delinquent reports will increase your chances that your award will be selected for in-depth monitoring. So it's important that the reports are submitted in a timely manner. Next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between subawards and procurement contracts, which I know can be sometimes difficult to understand and interpret. So the requirements for each differ significantly, so it's important that you understand how to properly classify any third parties you will pay with grant funds. It is the nature of the relationship that determines whether it is a subaward or a contract for grants administrative purposes. Generally, a subrecipient performs a portion of the federal award, whereas a contractor is providing goods or services to the recipient itself. The uniform guidance lists characteristics of a subaward versus contracts, which you will see examples and guidance on this slide. But I wanted to give you an example of the difference. A pilot program, which is initiated by a partner agency who would be responsible for completing a portion of the project to meet their goals and objectives, would be considered a subaward, versus a vendor who is providing a good or service to your agency is more likely to be considered a procurement contract. Also, I wanted to point out there is a link to OJP's website with the resources you can use, including a very detailed and helpful checklist, which will help you determine if what you're doing would be a subaward or a contract. And that's right on this slide. Next slide. I also wanted to highlight a few of the procurement contract requirements related to grants, to include the full requirement for open and full competition. And you should review and be familiar with the requirements before entering into any contracts. Two things to highlight include the requirement to seek prior approval from OJP for a sole source contract that is in excess of $250,000. The DOJ financial guide and the sole source checklist linked in the previous slide include the criteria for when this might be appropriate and a template for submitting this request to OJP. The other point is that any contract must include a provision required by 2 CFR 200, Appendix 2. Next slide. This slide lists some, but not all, the requirements as it relates to subawards. This includes assessing the risk of all potential subrecipients before issuing a subaward, including all required information in the subaward agreement, passing on award conditions to them, monitoring all subawards through the subaward period. As a pass-through entity, you must have policies and procedures in place for making and monitoring subaward agreements consistent with the federal requirements, which are linked on this slide. Next slide. The pass-through entities are required to report any subaward in the amount of $30,000 or more in the FFATA reporting portal, which you can find the link, which is on this slide, which is the fsrs.gov. You must submit a FFATA report regarding a subaward the month after entering in that agreement. The slide links have additional information which can be found on this slide. Next slide. I highlighted a few of the other administrative requirements that may need to apply to your award. The first applies to all awards. It's your responsibility to report any waste, fraud, abuse, or other misconduct related to the grant. The second bullet is important for projects that are serving minors. There are requirements related to assessing suitability of project staff who will work with participants who are under the age of 18. The link in this slide has the full requirements, and the last bullet relates to the BJA requirements for posting disclaimers if your awards are funding a website or any publication. There are two different award conditions for this requirement. Again, please refer to your award agreement and conditions. I understand that grant administrative requirements can definitely be overwhelming, especially to new grantees. So at this point, I wanted to assure you that your grant manager is definitely there to help you. And if you have any questions or need further navigation or guidance, please definitely reach out to your specific grant manager. Next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about any kind of possible modification that might be made to the award. In JustGrants, these are called Grant Award Modifications, or GAMs for short. As mentioned earlier, the budget clearance GAM, which is a GAM that must be initiated by OCFO, this gives you clearance that your budget is good to go. The types of GAMs can initiate that can be initiated are listed here. They are both programmatic or financial GAMs. It's a good idea to run any proposed changes by your grant manager before submitting a GAM. Many changes require prior approval written by the federal agency as listed in the DOJ Financial Guide and the CFR Part 200. The situations are way too numerous to go into detail here, so I would encourage you that if you are considering that, to reach out and to your grant manager and consult the financial guide for more information. Next slide. The last type of GAM that I wanted to cover is a project period extension, which must be made through JustGrants at least 30 days prior to the current end date of your award. It must include a narrative justification and a revised timeline. It should be noted that extensions should not be requested solely to expend the remaining funds. There needs to be some kind of detailed justification as to why an extension is needed. And again, for more guidance, you should reach out to your grant manager and seek additional information via the financial guide. Next slide. BJA conducts monitoring activities on all of its grant awards. We do this in our day-to-day review of reports, GAMs, talking to grantees, and completing desk reviews. The purpose of this is to help you achieve your goals and objectives of your project and to ensure compliance with all relative administrative, financial, and programmatic requirements. Next slide. BJA and OCFO select a certain number of awards each fiscal year to conduct an in-depth monitoring, which can be completed on-site or remotely. The purpose of the in-depth monitoring is not to be punitive. It is to assist our grantees in properly administrating the award and being successful in meeting the goals. It helps maintain the integrity of your programs to ensure that the public is receiving the benefits intended. If your award is selected for in-depth monitoring, you must work with OJP to provide the necessary documentation and communicate with us throughout the review. After the review, you will receive a post-monitoring letter that details the results, including any issues that need to be resolved, and then we will work with you to resolve these issues and provide training and technical assistance as needed. Next slide. The final process of your grant is the closeout. Once the project is completed, it is time for the final stage of the life cycle, which is closeout. This consists of completing all obligations of the project cost within the project period. After the project period, you have up to 120 days to liquidate any remaining funds for costs that were properly incurred before the end date. You will need to submit the final performance report, the final FFR, and to complete any final drawdown that you need in the ASAP system. After this is done, the grant award administrator will submit the closeout in JustGrants. Note that as soon as the closeout is submitted, your ASAP account is automatically suspended. So be sure that you complete the final FFR report and complete your drawdown, because after you initiate the closeout, you will not have access to your funding. Next slide. So this slide includes a link, several links to learning about the JustGrants system and the ASAP system. I just wanted to point this out. If you have any kind of questions, this is a great resource. I highly recommend copying this link and adding it to as your favorite, as it offers a wealth of information. Next slide. And this slide gives you a direct link to the DOJ financial guide. It's great to have this listed as a favorite as well. Please note that there are occasional updates to the financial guide, and when it is updated, the link will automatically be updated. And this is just like this is just an important document that you should keep on hand if you have any questions. The financial guide, which should be able to answer them, or if you can reach out to your DOJ manager. Next slide. And on this slide, we list all of the managers, myself, Winston, Renee, and Nikisha, and you can see that we're listed, that we're broken out into regions with states, the programs, and then our contact information. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sam Wilcox for her presentation on performance measurement.
Thank you, Tammy. Good afternoon. I'm Sam Wilcox. I am a member of the Planning, Performance, and Impact team for BJA. So this portion of the orientation will cover several topics related to performance management. We'll discuss the requirements for data reporting, including what you need to report, where reporting happens, when reporting is due throughout the year, and how to report data. Specifics around your program and your respective reporting questionnaire, including recent revisions to measures, will also be discussed. I'll then share some data reporting and goal setting best practices to set you up for success. And finally, I'll share contact information and resources for you to get in touch with us if you need any assistance with your performance measures or reporting at any time. So performance management is the process by which grantees regularly collect data on their grant activities to determine whether they're implementing activities as intended and achieving their desired goals and objectives. Using performance measures that capture inputs, outputs, and outcomes over time enables pre- and post comparisons that can be used to assess change. BJA has established performance measures for each grant program, and these measures were included in the original solicitation that you responded to. I'll review the specifics of your program's unique questionnaire during this orientation. You can find additional information and several resources on the Office of Justice Program's Grant Performance Measurement and Progress Reporting Information Portal at the BJA Performance website listed on this slide. Performance measures have many purposes and benefits to your program and for BJA. They allow BJA to look at your program holistically as well as at the local level to identify areas of success and potential areas for improvement. This also allows BJA to target training and technical assistance resources to subjects or localities that need them the most. Furthermore, BJA routinely receives data calls and requests, sometimes from Congress or the White House, and relies primarily on the data provided by grantees to respond to these inquiries. BJA regularly tracks progress towards goals and reports annual key performance indicators to leadership during budget formulation. Lastly, DOJ is required to comply with the reporting requirements of federal laws, including the Government Performance and Results Modernization Act of 2010, the Digital Accountability and Transparency Act of 2014, and the Grant Reporting Efficiency and Agreements Transparency Act of 2019. So there are three required sources of data that you will use to report. That's performance measures, narrative questions, and closeout questions. The performance measure questions for your program are a series of questions that measure outcomes of grant activities and demonstrate the accomplishment of goals and objectives of your program. A series of narrative questions related to your grant program's specific goals, objectives, barriers, and successes are also part of the questionnaire. Finally, the closeout questions are a series of questions that you will only need to respond to when activities have been completed and the grant is ending. Currently, there are two systems in place that both facilitate performance reporting for BJA, and which system you report in is determined by when you receive your award. So grantees who received an award prior to fiscal year 2021 will continue to report quarterly in the performance measurement tool until further notice. And grantees who received their award after fiscal year 2021 will report semi-annually in JustGrants. So if you have an award from more than 1 year, different years, you may be reporting in both systems. However, since this is a new grantee orientation, we'll focus just on the JustGrants requirements. So you will report data semi-annually using revised measures in the new JustGrants reporting system, which replaced the grants management system as of October 2020. You can access JustGrants using the link on this page. This table outlines the reporting schedule for JustGrants. As you can see, JustGrants reporting will be required semi-annually in January and in July. JustGrants is accessible for data entry after a data collection period closes. You'll be able to fill out your questionnaire on a semi-annual basis directly in JustGrants. So for example, you may upload data from July 1st to July 29th for the July submission period, or January 1st to January 31st for the January submission period to successfully complete that performance report in JustGrants. Please note, if the performance report is not submitted by the due date, its status will automatically transition to delinquent, and your grant manager or state policy advisor will likely contact you for your site data submission. There is a 15-day grace period after the due date before funds are frozen for delinquent performance reports. Okay, so I'm now going to go over both the JMHCP and the Connect and Protect questionnaires, starting with JMHCP, which is linked on this slide. However, if you are a Connect and Protect award recipient, there are some overlapping sections, so just please continue to follow along now. Okay, so here are the categories of the questions that are in the JMHCP questionnaire, and I will go over these in a little bit more depth over the next few slides. Connect and Protect grantees, this slide also pertains to you. So you'll both start off your questionnaire with general award and partnership activity sections. After answering questions about general award administration, such as if you have activity to report on in a given reporting period, you'll be directed to answer questions on partnership activities. Specifically, you'll be asked if your program has established an advisory group, and if so, what types of activities the group has engaged in during the reporting period. In the program overview section, you will report on any obstacles encountered during the reporting period. You'll also indicate whether your program is in the planning phase or the implementation phase. In the program description and target population section, you will respond to questions regarding program activities that are taking place using JMHCP funds. And these questions help BJA to gather information about where in the criminal justice continuum your program operates. This set of questions aims to evaluate the recidivism-related outcomes, such as recidivism reduction of your program. Please note that non-governmental agencies like community treatment organizations or private nonprofits are not expected to track recidivism data using administrative records. Okay, so the remaining slides pertain to both JMHCP and Connect and Protect grantees. In the training section, you will be able to report on up to 5 trainings per reporting period. And for each training, you'll be asked who provided the training, who the target audience was, the number of people trained, and what funds were used to provide the training. You'll also be asked to describe the impact, if any, that the training had on specific outcomes associated with the goals of your program. Next, you'll be asked to report on any technical assistance received during the reporting period. Again, you're able to report on up to 5 TA interactions per reporting period. And you'll report the name of the TA provider, the TA topic, the number of engagements, the level of satisfaction, any feedback you may have on the TA provider, and what funds were used to provide the TA. You'll also be asked to describe the impact the TA has on the specific outcomes related to the goals of your program. Finally, when you have completed your grant program and spent down your funds and you're ready to close out, we have some specific closeout questions related to the important outcomes for the JMHCP program. So please make sure to review these questions now so that you can plan to collect the data throughout the life of your program. Okay, so now I will briefly go over the Connect and Protect questionnaire, which is linked on this slide. So here are the categories that are in the Connect and Protect questionnaire. Again, some of these categories are the same as the JMHCP questionnaire, so I'm going to cover them a little bit more briefly. Like JMHCP, the Connect and Protect questionnaire starts off with questions related to award administration and partnership activities before moving into a section titled Planning and Understanding the Problem. In this section, you'll be asked whether your program is in the planning phase or the implementation phase, and you will also provide a status of your program planning activities. In the policies and procedures section, you will answer questions related to your agency's policies for responding to calls for individuals experiencing mental health crisis. The next section covers specialized training and includes a place to input the number of calls for service, field assessments, and screenings for mental illness given during a given reporting period. In the analysis and research section, you will indicate if data analysis was conducted during the reporting period, and if so, how analysis will inform your program's goals. And in the participants and services section, you'll be prompted to answer questions related to substance use, mental health, and co-occurring treatment if offered by your program. Okay, so again, these sections are the same as the JMHCP questionnaire. You can report on up to 5 trainings per reporting period. And same goes for TTA. You can report on up to 5 TTA providers. And again, with final report, same as JMHCP, you'll answer some closeout questions at the end of your grant program. So when responding to the narrative questions, you'll need to define some goals that you have for your program. It's best to keep in mind that these goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, or SMART. It's a good practice to review your goals on a regular basis and reassess how you're doing. Make sure to use data to describe how you're doing, as well as anecdotes that describe some of the good work that you're doing. And here are a few examples of well-defined SMART goals that will set a program up for success. While the goals on the left are great goals, they're not really easily measurable or specific enough to really see success. I'll also share some tips now on how to improve data quality that your program can do from the very beginning. It's recommended that a designated staff person coordinates all performance measure data collection and entry to ensure consistency. So if this is the first time that you will report data, please make sure that you are familiar with the data that you need to collect and report, and you can do this by reviewing the PDF version of the questionnaire. You should ensure a backup person is aware of the data collection and reporting process so that they can fill in if that designated person is unavailable or leaves the role. And you should consider all available data collection methods, including case management systems or other databases, spreadsheets, tracking intake forms, any other methods. If partner organizations are included in your program design, be sure to engage with them from the start in the planning process and determine if formalized agreements are needed to ensure that the necessary data is collected so that the program meets those goals and objectives. So here is the BJA Help Desk contact information and a list of available resources. So this contact information is specific to the PMT, and it's only relevant if you also have an award that was issued prior to fiscal year 2021. Here is my contact information and several other members of the Planning, Performance, and Impact team, and you can reach out if you have questions that are specific about the kind of data that you'll need to be reporting. And this is the JustGrants Help Desk contact information and some available resources. This is the help desk that you're going to use for your new JMHCP or Connect and Protect award, and they can assist if you have questions about unlocking reports or if you're having any kinds of issues with your submission on JustGrants. So that's it for me. I will pass it back to Allison.
Thank you so much, Sam. We've gotten a lot of great questions. We'll move into more question and answer time right now in the few minutes that we have remaining. And we've gotten a lot of great questions, so thank you for asking them. And we've answered a lot of questions. Asia's been busy. Thank you. So I think we have most of the questions answered. We have one remaining, which I'll get to right now. But please, in the minutes we have left, if you have any other questions around budgeting, grant management, performance measurement, reporting, et cetera, anything covered today, please feel free to chat them in or put them into the Q&A box. So I'll start off with one question here, which I'm sure lots of people are interested in, which is, when will our budgets be approved? So I'll refer that over to you, you all at BJA, Asia, or Tammy, or yeah.
Sure. So I'm not sure if Asia is back on right now. She had to step away for just a minute. So
okay.
No. So BJA is in the process of looking over all of the budgets. I know that they are actively sending out grant modifications to make changes to the budget. The majority of the changes that are needed are most likely going to be that the match is incorrect. I know it can be very confusing with the escalating match, but they should all be reviewed. If not by now, then I would say, you know, in the near future, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I can't really give a specific time frame, but this is definitely the most important phase as you're beginning, is to get the budget cleared.
And Tammy, can you say, forgive me if you're repeating yourself, but can you say how the grantees can tell if their budget's been approved or not?
Sure.
And maybe whether they, and there's also a question in the chat about how do they get notified if changes are needed?
So if changes are needed, OCFO is going to issue a grant award modification, or GAM for short, as we discussed earlier. That notification will automatically go out via email to the listed grant award administrator on the award. So if your roles are not assigned, it is imperative that the entity administrator go into Diamond and JustGrants and get those roles assigned, because OCFO will not be able to issue that change request until the roles are assigned.
Also, hi, can I jump in just real quick? Thanks, Tammy. It's also, and that's where it's also imperative to make sure your right point of contacts are in the system, so that when that role is assigned, if that person should leave and OCFO sends the budget and there needs to be changes, the person that was previously at your agency is going to get pinged. And we have no way of knowing when people leave. So that's why it's imperative for you guys to ensure that those roles are assigned appropriately and you have a contingency plan for people should they leave or no longer have access to the system.
Thank you. And another budget related question I see in the chat is we've had, Bridget has raised, we have had staffing changes and need to adjust our budget. Can we make those changes via a GAM now?
If your budget has not been approved, you officially aren't going to be able to put a GAM in. But what I would suggest is kind of prepping everything you will need to get that GAM submitted once the budget goes through. And you can work with your grant manager with that, whether that's Tammy, Nikisha, Renee, or Winston. You can kind of be ahead of the game and send them the documentation via email if they have any questions. And then that way, once you can get that GAM officially submitted, you already have done all the legwork. And Tammy, add, or Nikisha, please jump in and add anything if you'd like.
No, that was accurate.
Great, thank you. Another question here. There's a question about whether you all covered the FSRS reporting system that's required for awardees to use when making subawards. Could you go over that again quickly, please?
Yes, we did. That was with the FATA report. So if you have, if an applicant is, or excuse me, a non-applicant, a grantee has a subrecipient with an award that is over $30,000 or greater, then they have to report them in the FSRS system. And you can go back in the slides and there's a direct link. And in that link, if you looked on it takes you to the home page, if you look on the right side, there's a frequently asked questions document, which is a wealth of information. It'll literally guide you right through the steps to complete that report.
Thank you, Tammy. And another budget question. Glad these are coming up because there's it's a big process, right? So there's a question in the chat that says we do not have to submit a budget. It's a question. Do we not have to submit, or do we have to submit a budget after being awarded the grant because it was already submitted as part of the application?
So no, OCFO is in the process of reviewing that budget. If changes are needed, they're going to issue the grant modification GAM, which will go directly to the grant award administrator. And then the grant award administrator will make the necessary changes per OCFO's guidance.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Tammy. And there's a follow-up question to an earlier question that was answered. So actually, before we get to that, there's a quick FFRS question, is that, is the FFRS just subawardees or does it include contractors?
It's subawardees.
Okay. And there's a follow-up question that is related. I think, Sam, this is what you covered about when in the reporting, grantee teams can respond about technical assistance, up to 5 TA providers, I think you said. So the attendee was asking, can they respond about TA that comes from our agency, the Council of State Governments Justice Center? Can they respond in the performance measurement there about CSG Justice Center technical assistance? I think that I am communicating the question correctly.
Yes, they can.
Okay. If that was not what you were asking, type in quickly, but I think we have covered everything. So Andrea, I will just ask you to yes, switch advance. We, just as we wrap up, we want to share our panelists' contact information here on this slide, and the next slide is also in the chat here and will be, available to you once the recordings and slide decks are posted on our website. But we just want to say, first of all, congratulations again on your new JMHCP and Connect and Protect Awards. We really appreciate all of your participation today. Again, you can reach out to me, Allison Upton, or any of the panelists today with your questions, and we'll be glad to answer them for you. We really look forward to collaborating with you. And thanks to all the panelists and all of you grantee team members in attendance for joining to the webinar today. We really appreciate your participation and look forward to working with you. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.